Here we are with another episode, Chameleon Cinema, episode 6. And this week we watched Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. Is it of the Ring?
The Fellowship of the Ring.
The Fellowship. Okay, let me try that again. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Made in extended edition, extended cut. Wasn't it? Actually, I think I just heard that he kind of pioneered the term director's cut. No, extended. He pioneered the word extended cut because he felt like director's cut makes it seem like what they put out into theaters wasn't the director's cut, like his choices and things like that, and that just kind of makes it seem.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I just recently heard that on another podcast that I listened to about movies because I love movies. Anyways, this was made in 2001, so kind of just millennial or like right into the millennia. Yeah, and it was Peter Jackson, old Petey Jackie boy, who did this. You may not have heard of this, highly underrated film. Yeah.
It's the shortest title we've had so far, but it was my pick this week.
Surprise!
Yay! And this review goes out to Ebony Dorsey.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Just, she knows why.
Because she doesn't like him? Or it doesn't... That's so funny. Okay, go ahead. Ebony! We love you.
But, man, this movie, out of the three, it just has a soft spot in my heart.
Place in Christopher's heart.
We even walked out on our ceremony or our wedding to
that's right.
Oh man, what's the track called? Concerning Hobbits.
Oh.
Which is the track
We're
that
so nerdy.
plays during just Hobbiton, and like I think it's when like Gandalf is coming in and stuff. But anyways, I don't know. I feel like I could spend a full extended cut 4-hour movie of just hanging out in Hobbiton, following hobbits around. And,
you'd be a hobbit if you could.
Yeah.
Like, you'd for sure. We've figured out, like, the solitude, just the good food, the greenery, just writing books, hanging out with your buds.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Gardening, raising animals.
Gardening, I'll believe it when I see it.
No, but it's just I don't know, people working hard, but then also like partying hard, like they're just
because you're such a partier.
No, I honestly, if I were to be a
literal hobbit, we've wandered down a weird road.
I think I'd actually be a wood elf.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, this is news to me. Anyways, back to the
movie.
Movie at hand. Did you know that Peter Jackson has had a background in horror movies before this? Did you know that?
I didn't know.
I didn't know that either, but the podcast that I was listening to, I cannot remember the name at the moment, but I will shout them out after I look it up in a minute.
Something Lunchbox or
No.
Snack bar.
Oh, Cinema Snack Bar. Yes, they just did an episode and they brought that up, and I feel like of all the nerdiness that we have and know, you would think that we would know that tidbit of information, that little nugget but yeah, I guess he has like a bit of a background, and which is why when Galadriel gets all crazy, like that's like his like little fingerprint, and then also when Bilbo's face gets all like give me the ring, like that's like his touch of horror in a sense.
Well, I feel like it's throughout all of the movies, like especially like the ring wraiths.
No, super creepy.
The Witch King of Angmar and like the Mouth of Sauron, like all these like super dark, like scary dudes. Like every time they're on screen, you're just like, oh my gosh. And like creatures. Like, anyways, that's outside this movie, but like you can you see it after knowing that it makes sense. You're like,
that's where. But I'm just surprised that I found out something that I didn't know. I mean,
yeah, I feel like that expertise though, like I feel like it added a lot. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this movie is I just finished reading the book for the first time, and so I got to really compare the two. And one of the things with that is like what Peter Jackson took a lot of liberties and trimming of the fat and making travel like much shorter, even though some people think that it's just a movie about traveling.
Just a lot of landscape shots of people walking.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
which it is. But you should read the book because the book has like
Because the book is worse. So don't read.
three times as much. But yeah, like I feel like the way Tolkien described the ring wraiths were kind of scary, but like they talked a lot and like
What?
it just kind of didn't make them as scary as Peter Jackson did. Like the mystery of what the heck these things are, and like they're hooded, you can't really see their face, and like and when they do say anything, it's just like a screech.
Yeah.
And it's just like
That's a directorial choice, a storytelling choice.
And I think it adds a lot to the fear and the tension that anytime one of those hooded guys are on screen, you're just immediately tense. You know, like it's just like this tension maker.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget the scene when they are over the beds and they just start stabbing at the beds. Like as a child, I was like, "What?" Like I was shook. I legit thought that
And
the
that
hobbits were getting obliterated. The editing was so good.
Yeah.
So good. So he definitely shines in the retelling of this story. And I think that that's an interesting thing about Tolkien. I think everyone would agree Tolkien is a genius, but he's a genius in sort of laying the groundwork of something magnificent, and people sort of taking bits and pieces and parts of that and elaborating or putting themselves in, projecting how they would tell that or how they imagine. That's the beauty of fantasy. It's a lot of it's in your mind. They tell you the story, and then how you sort of portray that in your mind, it becomes what you love. And then Peter Jackson turns around and puts that out. He projects it out so that we can see essentially a new thing. But yeah, I definitely love Tolkien's world. I definitely think that people say it feels so lived in. It's like something that it's like when you come into it, it's been there the whole time. There's like you couldn't imagine there being a plot hole or there are plot holes, but it just, when you're in the world, it feels immersive and well thought out and full.
I'd say, are you ready for my hot take?
Oh gosh. Sure, let's go, get it.
Okay, my hot take is that I think Peter Jackson Peter Jackson, in at least in the sense of these stories, I feel like he is a better storyteller in the sense of pacing and brevity, but also
brevity,
hanging on important moments.
This is a 4-hour movie.
Yes.
Interesting choice of words, but I get.
Believe me, the book is really long, and so, but on Tolkien's side, I'd say he just adds all of this context, and he is such a good world builder, one that no one's really been able to imitate or be as masterful as he has, in the sense of like the depth and the just creativity of like, all the things like you said, like lived in, like he talks about why this town is named the way it is because of the history of this because they live by the river, and so then they harvest this, and that's why they're named this, and that families lived here for all this long. It's just like Peter Jackson was clearly like, don't need to say any of that, but but when you read it after watching the movie, you're like, oh, and it's so cool, you know? And I think they pair really well together. If you read the book and in the movie, I feel like Peter Jackson didn't take anything from it. I think he told a better story.
Yeah, interesting.
But reading the book, it makes me appreciate both more. You're just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, wait, like Tolkien, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've read The Hobbit. I haven't read this particular book. But in reading The Hobbit, I thought it was kind of boring. I thought it was like it is boring, but it's also, you have to understand like his audience and how young. I feel like he was kind of shooting for like a younger audience because the story is very like linear. It's just very like, and then they go here, and then they go here, and then this happens, and then they go here. Where I feel like Peter Jackson did more of a mature storyline and telling of the story and kind of bouncing around a little bit.
I think it's also the era. I think that like bouncing around in time and like, you know, that kind of storytelling, I feel like not only authors but movies have done a lot, and you can do a lot with movies in the sense of time and perspective and like what you know versus what the story says and stuff like that in movies where, and you know, later on people start writing like that. But I feel like, you know, look at when he was writing this stuff. What I'm
saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying, that's exactly what I'm saying. Look at the context of when and who he was writing to and what was popular writing styles and all that kind of stuff. But that's where I'm just saying, because it's years later and Peter Jackson tackled it in our time, he was able to finesse the story in a different way that makes it more, I think, more interesting. I mean, you've read the books. They're kind of boring. They're kind of long. So like you said, he kind of trims the fat, and he can also play around with how he presents things to his audience and stuff. So I like it. I love it. I think, I guess I would never have guessed that I would be so into nerdy things when I was younger, I guess. I wouldn't imagine that I would be so into it. But really watching it again, even when I think, this is so long, like I'm going to get tired of this, I found myself thoroughly enjoying it again. It's not my first rodeo with this one. And so to kind of notice where the extended bits were and to, as a, you know, I always like to think of like, ooh, was that a good choice to take it out or to leave it in, or did it make a difference? Oh, I think he made a good choice in like cutting that, you know, or whatever. So, I mean, overall, I think it's a beautiful world. Most of it stands up as far as like CG or any kind of like that bit, because they did a lot of things very practical. Literally building a little Hobbiton, and then like it just kind of feels good. It feels very real and tangible, and really holds up. I feel like I'm trying to think if there's any spot where the CG kind of makes you be like, I feel like Gollum, he's on the verge, but at least right now he still looks really good.
Yeah, he's kind of hidden. I'm trying to think of
the fireworks,
maybe. The Balrog. The Balrog's a lot of CG.
So cool looking. I think it's just a cool designed character.
Yeah.
He's a boss dude.
But I don't know. They did so much practical and so much miniatures. I mean, it's Weta. Like, I mean,
What's Weta for someone who doesn't know, Christopher?
I mean, they're just the production house that they started on these movies and got so famous for their production.
What does a production house do? It's because they do like a lot of the CGI stuff, right?
No. They actually would create the props, the sets design. They would create miniatures. So like whenever they would do a miniature shot of, like, I think Rivendell was all like the wide shots were a miniature set, and or
Rivendell is like bothers me. Yeah, Rivendell bothers me because I feel like, you know, I mean, I don't want to say cliche, like I'm a girl, so of course, I like elves, they're so elegant, and they're like the perfect idealistic version of a person, you know, or an elf. And so to think like that they're so superior, like, I don't know, I just feel like Rivendell looks beautiful, but feels crazy boring. Like, I would not want to go, kind of like Bilbo, go and live there. I think the only reason that it makes sense that he does is because there's magic there. So there's like a special feeling that you get while you're there. So maybe that's what's alluring. But take me to the wood elves, because Rivendell's, it's a beautiful place, but like their food looks bland and boring. It just looks too healthy and boring.
Well, I will say, I think in the book they describe Rivendell better, just because the reason he goes there is to finish his book. Yeah. And it's like quiet, but it's also inspiring because they're like always singing and writing songs, and Bilbo's writing songs.
But the songs sound so boring. Like,
the elven songs?
Yeah, give me the dwarven dudes. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I think we've talked about, I think I'm actually a dwarf.
Yeah.
I think I vibe with the dwarves a little bit more than the elves, and I thought, but that's what also cracks me up. The beginning, I think it's Galadriel, right? She's telling the intro. She's giving you the backstory. And she's like, elves, wisest and fairest. And I'm like, who voted on that? Because I feel like dwarves would not agree. Like, they would be like, no, elves are ugly. And dwarves are so, like, we're the best at everything.
Well, I mean, in the beginning times, like, when the rings were forged and stuff, I'm pretty sure the elves and dwarves were like, friendly. It was,
and so they were all like, humans were like, yeah, you guys are the best, and they were like, yeah, we are. I mean, and dwarves were like, absolutely.
They might have argued at first, but then after 1,000 years, they're like, all right, you're still looking pretty good. Like, you guys are pretty wise. Yeah, I would agree. So,
I don't know.
But the dwarves,
I think the people who tell the story get the narrative, and so it's just a nice little.
That's the perks of telling a story.
I know. It's like what is it? John in the Bible says the disciple whom Jesus loved. It's like, wait, aren't you writing this story, John? Yeah. So I think she added that. But I will say, is it Gimli, right, who meets her later? He is pretty taken aback by her beauty. So, maybe he'd agree. He'd agree.
In the book, he was like forever changed by, I cannot remember their land, their forest that they live in.
Just wood elves. Who cares? I'm just kidding.
But I forget.
Some nerd somewhere is dying inside.
I can't believe you read the book and you don't remember. But that was obviously in the book much longer as well. But yeah, Gimli was like super, super pissed going there. Didn't want to go there. Fought tooth and nail. And then they didn't even want him there. But then, anyways, he eventually like gets won over by Galadriel and all them, and he's just like forever changed.
Yeah, goes old school. Asks for strands of her hair like a weirdo.
Yeah. At least he didn't go teeth.
Ugh. Well, I'm still bothered by the fact that people collect like baby teeth and then they keep it, and you're like, why? What am I supposed to do with that? What do I do with that? I don't know. That's just a bizarre thing that back in the day, I can have a lock of your hair. Yes. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Didn't shower today. But...
Gross. Okay. What other notes? You're the one who is in love.
I
love it too.
My only other thing that I had were the perspective shots that he did were just so good. Obviously, they show how he did it in the extras and stuff, but just like, I mean, he had to make hobbits and dwarves and human work with like Hobbit children versus Gandalf, and just having all that perspective.
No, I meant using children as like perspective.
Yeah. And so I just, it's super impressive how seamless he made that look, and because it's not even just them, but it's also like the set. So like when Gandalf and Frodo are sitting across from each other at the table, they're actually like five feet apart, you know, and the table's all like chopped up into 3 pieces, but it just looks like it's all just seamless, and I don't know, I just love that.
It was very revolutionary for the camera perspectives, and I believe they actually had like 2 separate Hobbit holes. I think I got this off of Cinema Snack Bar just recently. They were talking about it, and it's like they had 2 separate Hobbit holes of different sizes. Like I want to say a certain percentage different, and that's why Gandalf, Ian McKellen, hits his head. Because he's going back and forth between the 2, and in this smaller one he legitimately hit his head, but acted through it, and so they kept it in because that would happen.
That's that theater actor.
No, he's great. I was gonna say, speaking of acting, like, who would you say, I don't know if you could even pick, but like, who shined the most? I would say everyone keeps you in it. Everyone acts their pants off, and nobody takes you out of it.
No one takes you out of it. Everyone is fully invested. Like you're there. But Aragorn
is like your man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I mean, Ian McKellen too. I should say, who's Aragorn?
I was going to ask you if you remember.
I can't remember his name. Anyways, don't want to waste time. But Gandalf and Aragorn, I feel like they really sell all aspects of acting. So like the facial acting, the movements, the swinging of the sword, or running, like all these things that they have to do in such a adventure, like just sell it so well. And like, but Aragorn, like, him at Bree, and like
where's Bree?
When he's like sitting in the corner,
he's
sitting in the room with the other hobbits.
Yeah.
And there's so many moments that you're just like, I'm with you, man.
Yeah. I was kind of like, like, it wasn't like full. I'm like, I get why people like ooh and gaga over him or whatever, but I'm like, I don't know. But then when it was towards the end, and like, he's super crazy honorable, also can, like, a good fighter, also understands the mission and lets Frodo go, like, just all of those things that make somebody a wise king, a great and knowledgeable person. Also, like, I mean, who doesn't love a little broken man where he's like, oh, I don't want to be king, I don't know if I'm worthy. I mean, ooh so good. So then he kind of got me, he pulled me in, and I was like, all right, yeah, no, I get it, I get why you love him, I get why my husband loves him.
Yep. He's my man.
The only one I would say that I'm like is Elijah Wood. Literally Elijah Wood. I have a love-hate relationship with him and his big old eyes. I don't know. He's just he's good. He does, but I think it's also his character you're not supposed to fully love, like, you do, because if the choices that he makes, like, I'm just gonna go off alone and leave Sam, and they're like, you idiot, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, so you kind of are supposed to not, I think, appreciate him as much as you could.
I don't know. I think acting and just the casting choices in general were amazing.
This was Orlando Bloom's first breakout. Like, it was like, I think he was graduating acting school, like, while beginning this project.
I'm sure this was Elijah Wood's one of his first ones.
No,
too.
he was like in Flipper and crap when he was a kid. He was like a child actor.
Oh, child actor. Okay.
Yeah. Shows how much you know. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, I didn't listen to another podcast.
I didn't listen. That's not from the other podcast. That's just something I actually know from him. Because it surprises me. I'm like, man, you've been around for a long time. I don't know. I just don't know. I still don't like you. I still don't know if I like you. And it's like that in every role. Like, he's in Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind as well. And I feel like that movie's really good, but he plays the creeper, like the creepy, weird, like, guy who's, and it's just like, come on, why are you always weird? But maybe that's his typecast, maybe he got typecast into that.
Yeah.
So I have questions.
Okay.
That I don't know if you can, I don't even think you can answer, but I just want to put out there. My questions are, Sauron, when he gets his finger cut off, he evaporates. Why does he just why does he do that?
I don't know.
Like, he gets an injury Because I think, I mean, this is not in this film, but I think Frodo gets his finger cut off, right? Or something like that. It gets bit off by like Gollum or something.
Oh, at the very end, yeah.
And he doesn't evaporate.
You didn't see the extended edition?
He doesn't evaporate.
No, I mean, he implodes or like explodes. Like he really just gets blown apart. But yeah, I don't.
Sauron, not
Sorry,
Frodo.
Sauron, yeah. But I don't know. I haven't read all of the extended lore, and I don't know.
I think that's just a choice. I think Peter Jackson was like, yeah, blow him up. Just
yeah. I don't know because it wasn't in. I don't think it was in the first book. I don't. They didn't go into that part of the history. They start right in the Shire, on the book where Peter Jackson does that big old intro and gives you all the context, which is what you can do with film. So.
Yeah, and then, okay, also, why didn't Gollum rule? Like, why didn't he even just rule the mountain? Like, rule the goblins underneath? Like, if he has the powerful ring, does it questions? Wait, he does say? Well, my question is, why doesn't he rule the mountain? Is it because, my full question is it because his hobbit background and, like, hobbits are just by nature kind of, like, private, just kind of how, like, Bilbo, like, didn't even want to share his spoons if he was going to die. He was like, they just want to steal my stuff. Or is it, like, the ring's choice? Like, the ring was hiding, so it wanted him to hide and not, like, be a crazy ruler dude?
The ring likes hide and seek, and it was going to win. No, Gandalf says why. He says that he tells Frodo, well, maybe he doesn't in the movie, but in the book he says you don't, like, the only one who has access to the power is Sauron.
But you see what I'm saying, though, is it changes every single person who goes after it with essentially the same motive. Galadriel, they would have a queen, and she gets all crazy. And then, like, even the other guy's like, I could rule my people. We could be, bring humans back to the rightful, repaired, whatever. But like Gollum never has that desire to rule. He just likes the ring. He just holds it instead of like, I have this powerful ring. I could control the goblins or could, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like the ring makes you want to have power, but he doesn't do that.
Well, I think he also talks about this in the movie, like hobbits are, I think, immune to that temptation, which is why Frodo and Bilbo, that's what Gandalf assumes. He was
or they like, stay. I wouldn't say they're immune, but they
have a particular resistance to the temptation.
So that's what my guess is because hobbits naturally don't care about engaging with the world much, naturally like to keep to themselves, naturally. So I'm wondering if when it fell into the hobbit's hands, it was just natural for him to find a hole.
Yeah.
Although it was a cave, and that's not very hobbity.
But
it was just
it
interesting.
just like withered him away. But yeah, like it's interesting that you make that point because there is throughout the book and the movie. I think the book has even more because it has like Tom Bombadil and like people who try to like pass that test. It like tests all the powerful people, and then they're like, yeah, I passed the test, but they still don't desire it, But yeah, it's like, is that just a lie? A deception of power? Because, Gandalf says he's just like, even if you wielded it, you wouldn't have the power that Sauron does. Like, Sauron is the only one who can truly wield the ring. So it's like, is that just a deception of temptation? Like,
I don't think so. I think it gives you power, and it has shown that with different people who had it and abused it or whatever. It just usually betrays them. It's like magic. Like, all magic comes with a cost. Every, whatever has like a caveat. But it's just interesting to me that as far as we know, Gollum doesn't do that in any way. It just seems like a waste of something that would be oozing with power. You just eat fish and like eat people that like die, like goblins that die and fall into your area. Like that's that's how you choose to live when like it literally seems to propel you towards world domination. Yeah. So it's just interesting that he didn't do that. So my speculation is because it has something to do with the hobbitness of it, and also partially the ring was like choosing its time, biding its time, because then it like says like, oh, the ring deceives him, so he or it forsakes him, and he finds a new owner or whatever. But even then, even with Bilbo just hangs on to it for a really long time.
And I think that's why Gandalf made that comment, hobbits have a particular resistance to its charm, to its greed and all that stuff. Because even Bilbo didn't really even care about the treasure that he brought back from his journey in the Hobbit and stuff. Like even though he had a king's treasure, he didn't even care. He was just oh yeah, this is just a shirt.
He was still nitpicking about spoons and
but
his stuff he was trying to hide from his relatives that wanted to claim his stuff.
Spoons.
I guess the last thing I would like to say about it for me was that as far as the fellowship, I feel like the movie really represents that well. There are movies that introduce characters and introduce groupings and things like that, and you just don't really care. You're just kind of oh, if they die, I don't really care. If they're, removed from the storyline, I don't really care. I'm not invested fully. I feel like this does a really great job at fully investing you into these characters, even the fact that you don't meet the full fellowship till the very end, but still that battle with the orcs and everything that, and them working together, and Sam's loyalty to Frodo. You just see this crazy loyalty and this fellowship that doesn't even necessarily need to walk side by side, but their mission is the same. And I think that is so beautiful, and really why I fall in love with fantasy and the hero's tale and all of that. And I will say, I would like to add to, if anybody doesn't know, the writer Tolkien went through seeing war firsthand, legitimately in the trenches. And I do feel like he sort of built this world almost like a PTSD, a response, an escape, a fantasy escapism to rationalize and deal with and process life, death, evil, greed, and all this stuff. And so I really believe that's why it's so beautiful. That's why it's so rich when you watch that and hear that, watch it, hear it, read it, the story in and of itself, even though he's got a lot of words, which I can relate.
And songs.
He likes to say a lot of things.
Lots of songs.
You did not like the songs in the book.
Way too many songs.
I didn't know that about him or those books. But anyways, I just like that. Even in his real life, I don't know if people know, but he was friends with C.S. Lewis and a couple others, and they were a part of a group called the Inklings. And they were just writer buds who would meet up and hang out in pubs and talk about their writing and encourage each other. And every time Tolkien would get into this sort of depressive, why does it even matter? Am I even writing anything worth anything, and his friends would encourage him. C.S. Lewis would encourage him, and they would tell him that this work is important and that he absolutely needs to finish it. And I just think it's so just like the Fellowship. It's so just like needing people in this life to push you through those dark times, to put out something beautiful, and look at the ripple effect.
The legacy that he left behind.
So that is why I love and value and definitely appreciate, and I'm on board with Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, and these movies also have a fond spot in my heart.
Yeah. All right. You ready to do scores?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. So, I'm not going to explain how we score. If you haven't caught on by now,
You're not a real fan.
Go to a previous episode. But so for my overall score of the movie,
this is out of 5.
Out of 5, I'm going to do a 4. So not perfect, but darn near close. There's just a couple really small things that, I don't know, in at the perfect world, I think I would edit somewhere in between the standard version and the extended version, and I don't know, but
Still cut a couple things out?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But
okay.
either way, I still don't think it was like absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
I can't remember the examples right now, but anyways, but the rewatchability for me is a 5. I could watch it again right now.
Honestly, me too.
Yeah. And so, yeah, my overall score is a 9 out of 10.
But I think I agree. I think it's going to be really hard to come across a film that's perfect. Come across a film that we give it like a 5. Oh my gosh, there's nothing that needs to be done. And I know they exist. I'm sure that they exist.
I already gave one.
You did? Which one?
Mad Max.
You gave Mad Max
5.
a 5, and no,
Rewatchability.
and not Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Rings.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Because for what it was.
It was perfect. I disagree. I think I gave it a 4.
Oh.
But that's crazy. I would say, yeah, I'm not even going to say off the top of my head which ones I think could possibly reach that. But I'm sure they exist. I know that they exist. I know there are movies that we love that are like, absolutely, yes, there's nothing that we would change. But I would honestly say it's like a 4.5. Like, it's so close to a 5.
We don't do those fractions.
Okay, so then I agree. Then I would say also rewatchability is top notch. It's absolutely a 5. I would definitely. I was surprised that after all those hours, I was like, yeah, let's keep it rolling. Like, yeah, I'm ready for the where does this go? Take me there, which is surprising. But I will say, I don't think that's true for the rest of them. I feel like it is one of those, like, it came out with a bang, and then some of the other ones falter in rewatchability. Yeah, like, just, we'll see. But I think that's how I feel now. That's my prediction. But
I have always thought over these years that this one was my favorite. And so I am also curious on how The Two Towers and The Return of the King will match up to this. Yeah. So 9 out of 10 for both of us. We'll see in the future how the other two stack up. But yeah. That's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in. And we'll catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Fly, you fools.
Oh, gosh.